The night was alive. The air, warm and heavy with the promise of summer, held the hum of crickets and the distant murmur of teenage laughter. This was the kind of night you remember forever, the kind where the future feels bright and limitless. For 18-year-old Lauren Ashley, it was just another summer evening, a simple drive home from her job at the mall. Her world, a vibrant tapestry of music, friendships, and big dreams, was waiting for her. But tonight, the routine was broken. She made a detour to a house she knew well, a place that should have felt safe. For a moment, her car sat in the quiet driveway, its engine still warm, the headlights cutting through the growing darkness. The house was a sanctuary of memory, a place of shared laughter and whispered secrets. But on this night, a silent darkness was waiting inside. What was said in those final, hushed minutes? What simple, well-intentioned choice led her to step into the quiet house and never come back out? The moon rose, casting long, silver shadows. But for Lauren, the light was fading. By morning, the small town of Wayland would wake to a nightmare they couldn't have imagined. A life of promise had been extinguished, leaving behind only questions and a chilling silence. Before we unravel today's chilling case, we have something that will take your obsession with criminal investigations to the next level. If you live and breathe true crime, you can't afford to miss the ultimate book of serial killers. It's not just a book. It's your personal archive of darkness. Inside, you'll find 180 meticulously detailed files on the world's most notorious murderers. From the twisted minds behind history's most gruesome acts to the cold, hard facts of their investigations, this book pulls back the curtain on the deepest shadows of human nature. Ready to dive deeper? The book is available on Amazon right now. For instant access, you can also grab the PDF version directly from our website. All the links you need are in the video description and in a pinned comment. Now, let's get into the heart of today's case. Lauren Ashley was a force of nature. At just 4 feet, 11 inches, her physical size was in no way a measure of her spirit. Her presence didn't just fill a room, it transformed it. Born on April 1st, 1993, in Boston, Massachusetts, she was the only child of 2 devoted teachers, Mary and Malcolm Ashley. They raised her on a foundation of honesty and compassion, values she would carry with her for her entire life. Even after her parents' separation in 2006, their united love for Lauren was a constant, an unwavering source of light in her world. She was a whirlwind of energy, a luminous soul who threw herself into every passion. She sang in the church choir, played tennis and soccer, and captivated audiences as the lead in the play Annie. Her passion was singing, a talent so undeniable that the moment she became the lead singer of her high school's a cappella group was one she described as one of the happiest in her young life. But Lauren's devotion went beyond the arts. At just 12 years old, she traveled to New Orleans to aid victims of Hurricane Katrina, returning twice more to help flood survivors. She was a selfless soul, always putting the needs of others first. In high school, she was not just an academic and athletic star. She was a trendsetter, admired for her sincerity and her incredible ability to connect with people. To the outside world, Lauren's life was a perfect story, a narrative of talent, kindness, and boundless potential. But every life, no matter how bright, has its shadows, unseen and unheard. A darkness was beginning to gather around her, a storm that would eventually threaten to extinguish the very light she radiated. During those high school years, Lauren began her first serious relationship with Nathaniel Nathan Fudja, a classmate she had known since childhood. Nathan was a star quarterback, tall, athletic, and popular. To everyone looking in, they were the golden couple, the perfect match for a high school fairy tale. But fairy tales are for fiction, and as time went on, the cracks in their perfect facade began to show. Their relationship grew increasingly unstable, caught in a cycle of volatile arguments, temporary reconciliations, and painful breakups. Hidden beneath Nathan's popular, confident exterior was a possessive and jealous nature. He grew frustrated, then angry, as he watched Lauren dedicate her time and energy to her friends, her community service, and her future, a future that wasn't centered on him. This darkness was not a sudden change, but a slow, insidious creep that began to consume him. By her senior year, Lauren was focused on the horizon. She had big dreams and knew it was time to turn the page and begin a new chapter. With college on the horizon, she set her sights on Elon University in North Carolina, while Nathan committed to playing football at Trinity College in Connecticut. For Lauren, this felt like a turning point, a chance to step into a life of her own. Her friends, seeing the escalating tension and toxicity, created a list of reasons she should end things with Nathan, citing his quick temper and aggressive behavior. On her 18th birthday in April 2011, Lauren made the difficult decision. She broke up with Nathan, finally choosing her own freedom. She described that day as one of the best of her life, a feeling of pure liberation after years of emotional turmoil. But what felt like a fresh start for her was, for him, a painful, devastating ending he simply could not accept. For Nathan, what felt to Lauren like a fresh start was a painful, devastating ending he simply could not accept. The breakup wasn't just the end of a relationship. It was the abrupt collapse of his identity. His dreams of playing football at Trinity College no longer seemed to matter. Once an ambitious young man, he began a terrifying withdrawal. His world shrank, and he became consumed by a depression he couldn't escape. He cut himself off from his friends, spent his days slumped on the couch, lost in a haze of heavy drinking and daily marijuana use. Lauren, with her selfless nature, still worried about the boy she had once been so close to. She saw him spiraling and wondered if she should reach out, if she could somehow help him. But her friends, seeing the danger more clearly, gave her the same warning every time. Don't. They knew any contact, no matter how kind, would only feed Nathan's delusion that their relationship could begin again. As the summer of 2011 began, Lauren was focused on living her final months at home to the fullest. To celebrate graduation, her friends threw a huge party under a large tent. Laughter and music filled the air, a scene of pure, uninhibited joy. But the celebration had a dark presence. Nathan was there, already drunk, when he stumbled up to Lauren, begging for another chance. She stood firm, determined to move on, but he couldn't accept her decision. Fueled by alcohol and a simmering, toxic jealousy, he followed her around the party like a shadow, refusing to let her out of his sight. At one point, Lauren broke down in tears, confiding in a friend that Nathan just wouldn't leave her alone. His anger escalated. Finally, in a fit of rage that shattered the festive mood, he slammed his fist into a tent pole, sending the entire structure collapsing onto the crowd. The celebration was ruined. The air was no longer filled with laughter, but with stunned silence and shouts for Nathan to leave. Later that night, Lauren revealed the full extent of his obsession to her mother. He simply couldn't stand to see her happy without him. It was a chilling confession that would soon take on a haunting new meaning. Things had gone quiet, but it was the kind of quiet that feels like a hell breath before a storm. Lauren kept herself busy, taking a summer job at a clothing store in the local mall, filling her days with routine. But on July 3rd, 2011, her world shifted. At 6:45 p.m., she was seen on security cameras, a fleeting, ghost-like image of her leaving work, phone to her ear. That brief, everyday moment was the last time anyone would ever see her alive. She was supposed to meet friends for a walk, but she never showed. Lauren was meticulous about her plans. She would never have just disappeared. Her father, Malcolm, felt an immediate, gut-wrenching dread. To him, her silence spoke louder than any words. He called the police, and a frantic search began. That very night, Lauren's red Jeep was found at Whalentown Beach, her bag and laptop still inside. The windows were rolled down, a silent invitation to an empty car. When Malcolm heard the news, he raced to the beach. He ran along the dark shoreline, a flashlight beam slicing through the night, as if it could still save her. Friends, their own hearts pounding with fear, gathered there too, a silent vigil of disbelief and hope. They stayed all night by the water, waiting, praying, unwilling to believe that their vibrant, beautiful friend could have been touched by any harm. They had no idea that a tragedy beyond their darkest imagination had already unfolded. As investigators began to dig, a name kept surfacing: Nathaniel Fudja. When they learned about the painful breakup fueled by his escalating jealousy, the case sharpened into focus. To police, this wasn't just a teenage drama. It was a major red flag, a motive they knew all too well could lead to tragedy. Nathan was already on their radar. That very evening, detectives went to his home. Nathan appeared calm, but his story felt empty, a carefully constructed alibi that didn't quite hold together. He admitted to seeing Lauren briefly, claiming she pulled up to his house, never left her car, and that they had only a short, awkward exchange before she drove away. It sounded plausible, but to the investigators, something felt wrong. Before dawn the next morning, the search for a missing girl turned into a murder investigation. Just 5 miles from town, a cyclist noticed something unusual in the dense marshland, the body of a young woman floating in the water. It was Lauren Ashley. When detectives arrived, the scene was chilling. The wound on her throat was obvious, a brutal slash. Tangled in her hair was an elastic cord, grim evidence of further violence. Lauren had just turned 18. Her vibrant life had been extinguished. As her body was rushed to the medical examiner's office, her father, Malcolm, was forced to confront the unimaginable. He clung to a desperate, impossible hope that it wasn't her. But when the time came, he was asked to identify his only child. The devastating reality of her death hit him with the force of a tidal wave. The bright, talented girl who had just started her life was gone. The tragedy shook the community. Friends insisted Nathan would never harm the girl he loved so deeply. But police saw the situation differently. They learned that Nathan's mother had tried to intervene, quietly visiting the mall where Lauren worked, hoping to bring her son and Lauren back together. What she didn't know was that Lauren, in an act of kindness, had agreed to meet with Nathan briefly. She had no intention of rekindling their relationship, only of helping him move past the sadness. Surveillance footage and phone records confirmed she had been speaking with Nathan as she left work. She sent him a single text message at 7:05 p.m., the last one she would ever send. The last place she was seen alive was at his house. On July 4th, when police returned to question Nathan again, he had vanished. With suspicion mounting, investigators obtained a warrant to search the Fudja home. Inside, they quickly uncovered a series of disturbing clues. They found blood on the garage floor and smeared on doorknobs and inside the kitchen and bathroom sinks, as if someone had desperately tried to wash it away. In the basement, a black sports bag contained a pair of trainers caked in mud that matched the marshy terrain, where Lauren's body was recovered. In the attic, they found blood-stained boots and clothing. Laboratory testing confirmed the blood belonged to Lauren Ashley. With that evidence, police issued a warrant for Nathan Fudja. He was located hours later at his cousin's home. Shortly after midnight on July 4th, 2011, the 18-year-old football player was arrested and charged with the murder of his former girlfriend. When officers took him into custody, he remained silent, offering no explanation and showing no emotion. On February 13th, 2013, 18 months after Lauren's death, Nathan's trial opened. The defense admitted he had killed Lauren, but insisted he was legally insane. They argued that he wasn't a young man stalking an ex-girlfriend, but one who had withdrawn from everyone, a victim of his own spiraling mental illness compounded by years of football-related head injuries. They claimed that on the night of July 3rd, he suffered a manic episode, acting without awareness or control. The prosecution told a very different story. They argued that Nathan had deliberately lured Lauren to his home, knowing his parents wouldn't be there, and carried out a planned, not a spontaneous, attack. The autopsy revealed defensive injuries, proving Lauren had fought back. After the killing, Nathan's actions showed clear planning. He changed his shoes, drove her Jeep to the beach, and threw the keys into a storm drain. He then walked home, moved her body, and drove to a swamp, believing the muck would swallow her remains. Later that night, witnesses even saw him driving naked, windows down, blasting music, a bizarre detail that showed a terrifying detachment from reality. The prosecution insisted his actions, from the cleanup to the disposal of her body, were proof of planning and awareness of guilt. The trial was agonizing. The medical examiner told the court that Lauren remained alive for several minutes after the attack, bleeding to death. On March 7th, 2013, after a full day of deliberation, the jury returned a verdict. Guilty on all counts. Nathan Fudja was sentenced to life in prison, without the possibility of parole. In the aftermath, Lauren's parents, Malcolm and Mary, refused to let her memory fade. They created the Lauren Ashley Memorial Foundation, a nonprofit dedicated to causes their daughter had cared about. They turned their grief into a mission, teaching others about the dangers of breakup violence. But even years later, the case was not fully closed. In January 2024, the Massachusetts Supreme Court overturned a law requiring anyone under 20 at the time of their crime to serve life without parole. For the Ashleys, the change reawakened old wounds. They now fear that Nathan Fujah, who murdered their only child at 18, could one day be released. For them, true justice means he should remain behind bars for life. Thanks for tuning in to Daily Crime Stories. If you're intrigued by mysteries from around the world, check out our new channel, Latin Crimes, where we dive into the gripping true crime stories of Latin America. Don't miss out. Subscribe now for more thrilling investigations.